Hello and welcome back. Today we are looking at Mutalist Cernos. Now, I don't know what everyone's perception on this weapon is, however, from what I have noticed, it does seem to be one of the least used bows in the game. I very rarely come across people using this bow in general, and I'm hoping I can sway people towards it. Purely because, one, it is probably one of the best weapons you can actually use with Saryn. There are other weapons that are better, but this is very easily come across in general, the Mutalist Cernos, as well as it is pretty darn effective against nullifiers. You can see this thing just pulsating down, and he's not even shooting me, so that's nice and easy. As well as it reaches 100% status chance very, very easily. Also adding in the fact that it has an innate toxin proc, which does damage over time. Now, there are a few quirks with this toxin proc and a few things people may or may not know. One of them being, and it also does negatively affect the weapon overall, punch through on this weapon is a bad thing because the spores go where the arrow stops. So if the arrow stops in an enemy, the spores will hit the enemy. If the arrow kills the enemy and then forces knockback and pins them to a wall, the spores will go to where the enemy has landed in the wall. If the arrow goes through the enemy and then goes into a wall, the spores will go to the wall. However, there are a few plus sides. Adding in base toxin damage, whether that be infected clip or malignant force, 1 gives you an increase in toxin damage, 2 acts as a base input and ups the toxin proc from the spores. The second thing is, essentially, you do have a permanent multi-shot. You fire an arrow, and then a few seconds afterwards, well, basically just about half a second afterward really, you fire these little spores. Now, I have colored my Saryn to red to hopefully highlight them. Thank you for that, wife. I'm colorblind as shit, so I actually can't tell, but I'm hoping it will highlight them for you unless you're colourblind to red, in which case I am also very sorry. I feel your pain. But to be honest, overall this weapon can be utilised pretty darn effectively. 1 as a support weapon to actually either just add in a plethora of toxin procs, 2 as a damage buff weapon for those that are using condition overload, and 3 as a Saryn specialist weapon just to help spread those spores. Now, there is a little bit of a catch with this weapon. You don't want to be one-shotting enemies. If you're one-shotting enemies, you are basically, in a way, kind of making those spore shots redundant. You need to get to a level really where it takes 2 arrows roughly to kill enemies, and for that reason I would say that this is just an end game weapon, not a late game. End game being sortie, late game being let's just see how bloody far I can go. Now, you don't actually need to hit enemies with this weapon, as you can see here. I'm just spamming over the place and it is the little spore clouds that are killing things. However, once you get to a certain point and comfortability with the weapon, you can literally just, it does take out things with relative ease. Like, you don't actually feel particularly pressured or strained, but it is a bit slower than other options. Now, to craft this weapon you will need the Cernos, the standard weapon, and it can be upgraded from there. You basically use that weapon in your foundry to make the Mutalist Cernos. And another kicker with this weapon is, if you want a riven for it, which I do have, I'll be showing a build with and without, but if you want a riven for it, it will have to be a Mutalist Cernos riven. So there is a little bit of a catch on that one. So if you're wanting a riven for this weapon, it has to be a specific Mutalist Cernos riven, because you have Cernos rivens and Mutalist Cernos rivens, which from what I have seen has caused a bit of confusion in the trade chat from time to time, particularly with the newer players. So overall, this weapon is actually pretty good. I will not say it is one of the best bows in the game, it certainly isn't, but is definitely worth a look in. Definitely a keeper. Anyway, onto the actual build. Now, surprise surprise, I've gone for corrosive. Split chamber, Serration, Malignant Force and High Voltage. I've also got Hellfire on there, Speed Trigger, Continuous Misery, and the reason I've got Hellfire on there is because my Riven does heat as well and I'm quite liking it. Electricity and a bonus to damage. Negative crit chance, but it's only got a 15% anyway. Now if you don't have a Riven, pretty much the same build, except I would suggest cryo rounds or primed if you have it. Now this weapon, actually, honestly, it is pretty good. Just do not expect it to be the fastest thing going, do not expect it to be the most damaging thing going. It's better as a support weapon. Anyway, that's me, thank you very much, and I'll see you pretty darn soon. Ta-ra!